She stood in the checkout line, clutching her last $5, a baby on her hip, a cart full of hard choices, and eyes full of quiet desperation. But just behind her, watching, waiting, stood a man who would change her life in a way she never saw coming. What happened next? No one in that store could have guessed. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and don't forget to show some love by giving this video a thumbs up. Now, let's dive into this powerful, real-life story that proves one small act of kindness can rewrite someone's future. The doors of the small neighborhood grocery store slid open with a soft whoosh, letting in a chilly gust of wind and a young mother wrapped in an old coat that was 2 sizes too big. Her name was Rachel. She clutched a worn leather purse tightly under her arm and pushed a rickety metal shopping cart forward with one hand, the other cradling her baby against her chest. The infant squirmed in a cloth sling, restless but quiet, his small fingers curled tightly around the edge of her shirt. It was just another Wednesday afternoon, but for Rachel, it felt heavier than most. Her stomach was tight with anxiety, and her eyes scanned the aisles not for what she wanted, but what she could afford. Every item she picked up, she turned over carefully in her hand, flipping it to find the price tag, then hesitating. Was this can of soup worth skipping bread? Did the baby really need formula today, or could she stretch what she had for another day? She wasn't unfamiliar with this routine. In the past few months, it had become her new normal. Ever since she lost her job at the diner, downsizing, they said, Rachel had been balancing on the edge of too little. Rent was overdue. Her phone bill was unpaid. And now, all she had to her name was 5 crumpled dollar bills and a little loose change she had found under the couch cushions that morning. She tried to keep her chin up as she wandered through the store, placing a small loaf of bread, a can of beans, and a container of generic brand baby formula into her cart. It wasn't much, but it had to be enough. As her baby whimpered, she gently bounced him with one hand and whispered, "It's okay, sweetheart. Almost done." The overhead lights buzzed faintly as she made her way to the checkout line. She picked the one farthest to the right, the one where the cashier looked young and maybe less likely to comment on how little she was buying. Ahead of her, a man in a suit was chatting on his phone, pushing a cart full of organic snacks and sparkling water. Behind her, a mother with a toddler who was crying for candy. Rachel shifted nervously, pulling out her wallet. It was almost empty, just those few sad bills folded inside and some coins rattling at the bottom. She started doing mental math again, praying the total wouldn't go over. Her cheeks flushed, and she avoided eye contact with the people around her. When it was finally her turn, she offered the cashier a weak smile and began unloading the items. The cashier scanned them slowly, calling out the prices. $2.49, $1.19, $6.89. Rachel's stomach dropped. The formula. She had forgotten how expensive it was. Her fingers tightened on her wallet. She glanced at the register display, watching the total rise. Too much, way too much. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, her voice shaking just a little. "Can you take that off?" She pointed to the formula. The cashier paused. "Sure," she said softly, sensing the tension in Rachel's face. The beeping stopped. Rachel swallowed hard and looked at the baby in her arms. "I'll just get these," she mumbled. The cashier nodded and adjusted the total. Rachel reached into her wallet and carefully unfolded her last $5, smoothing them out on the counter like an offering. She fished out the coins and counted every cent aloud. $4.85, $4.90, $5. The line behind her had grown longer. She could feel the pressure of impatient eyes, tapping feet, and quiet sighs. She tried not to look up. But someone did look at her. 2 spots back in line, a tall man with silver hair and a navy blue overcoat watched the scene unfold. He didn't frown or look annoyed. He just noticed. Something about Rachel's posture. The way she gently hushed her baby while sorting coins on the counter. It struck him. Meanwhile, Rachel gathered her items as quickly as she could, stuffing the bread and beans into her worn canvas tote. She nodded a quick thank you to the cashier and turned away, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. It wasn't the first time she'd had to put something back, but every time still felt like a punch to the gut. Her baby stirred again, letting out a soft whine. She reached in and adjusted the blanket around his head, her hands trembling slightly. As she pushed the cart toward the exit, her eyes welled up. Not enough for tears to fall, just enough to blur her vision. She blinked them away and focused on the door ahead. Just get outside, she thought. Just breathe. What she didn't know, what she couldn't see, was that the man in the navy coat had already stepped forward. He was pulling out his wallet, saying something quietly to the cashier and keeping his eyes on the young mother walking away. Something had shifted. A line had been crossed. And Rachel's day, maybe even her life, was about to change. As Rachel moved toward the exit, trying to steady her breathing and hold back her tears, the tall man in the navy coat stepped up to the checkout line. His name was Daniel. At 58, he was a quiet, thoughtful man, the kind who noticed things that most people overlooked. He wasn't famous, though people in the business world knew his name. He'd built a successful company from the ground up, but he never wore that on his sleeve. Today he wore a plain shirt under a wool coat and a look of quiet concern. He watched the young mother walk away and then turned to the cashier. "Excuse me," he said in a calm, low voice. "The woman ahead of me, what did she have to put back?" The cashier blinked, surprised. It was a container of baby formula." He reached into his wallet and pulled out his card. "Scan it again. I'll pay for that. And ring up a $100 gift card while you're at it." The cashier nodded, and Daniel tapped his card on the machine. "Please don't tell her right away, He paused. "I'd like to speak with her myself." Daniel didn't know why this moment had struck him the way it did. He'd seen people struggling before. He had grown up poor himself. But something about the young mother, the way she stayed calm for her child, the quiet desperation in her face, and reminded him of someone. His own mother, maybe, when he was little and times were hard. He collected the gift card and the formula and walked briskly toward the parking lot. He scanned the row of cars until he saw her. Rachel, standing beside an old faded minivan. She was balancing her baby on her hip while trying to open the back door with one hand. Her tote bag had slipped off her shoulder. He approached slowly, not wanting to startle her. "Excuse me," he called gently. Rachel turned, a little startled. Her first instinct was to tense up. She didn't know this man. Tall, older, polished. Not the kind of person who usually spoke to her outside of a checkout line. She pulled the baby closer to her chest. "I'm sorry," she said quickly, unsure of what he wanted. "Did I forget something inside?" He held up the container of formula. "Actually, this. You left it behind. I took care of it." Rachel blinked, confused. "What do you mean?" "I paid for it," he said, offering a kind smile. "And this too." He held out the gift card. Rachel stared at both items like they were made of gold. Her lips parted, but no sound came out for a moment. I can't accept that," she said finally. "That's too much." "Look," Daniel said, still calm. "I didn't do this to embarrass you. I just saw you in line. I could tell things were tough. And I've been there before." She looked at him again, really looked this time. He didn't have that fake smile people wore when they pitied you. His eyes were serious but warm, the kind of eyes that had seen their own share of hard days. Rachel swallowed hard. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice cracking. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he replied, his voice just above a whisper. "But sometimes we do things not because we have to, but because someone once did the same for us." There was a long pause between them. Rachel adjusted her baby's blanket and bit her lip, still unsure how to respond. Kindness this big felt foreign to her. Most days she felt invisible. Daniel glanced at the minivan and then back at her. "Look, I don't want to overstep, but if you're open to it, I'd like to help in a more lasting way. I own a company. We offer job training, mentorship programs, childcare support. It's mostly for people who need a second chance. People like my mom used to be. Rachel raised an eyebrow. You own a company? He chuckled softly. Yeah, I know I don't exactly look like a guy who hands out job offers in parking lots, but I meant what I said. You've got grit. I saw it back there. Rachel's mind raced. Was this real? Or was it some strange joke? But something in her gut told her he was being honest. I don't even have a resume, she said, almost apologetically. Then, we'll help you build one, Daniel said. I'm not handing you a job, I'm offering an opportunity. If you want it, that is. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a simple business card. Just his name, the company's logo, and a number, no flash. No pressure. She took it slowly, like it might disappear if she grabbed it too fast. I'll think about it, she said, though something inside her was already screaming yes. I hope you do, he replied. Call me Monday. We'll figure it out from there. He turned to leave, giving her a final nod, and walked toward his sleek black sedan across the lot. Rachel watched him go, standing perfectly still beside her rusty van, her baby quietly gurgling against her chest. And for the first time in weeks, maybe months, Rachel felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Rachel sat in her minivan long after Daniel had driven away. The gift card lay on the passenger seat next to the container of formula, and Daniel's business card rested on her lap like it was made of glass. She stared at it, her fingers gently tracing the embossed letters. Daniel Carter, Carter Solutions. Simple, clean, professional. She had no idea what kind of business he ran, and even less of a clue what she would say if she did call, but the warmth in his voice and the sincerity in his eyes wouldn't leave her mind. All weekend she kept coming back to it. She'd almost convinced herself it had been a dream. People didn't just appear in grocery store lines and change your life, right? That only happened in movies. But the formula was real. So was the full gas tank, filled with the gift card Daniel had given her. So was the way she'd smiled for the first time in what felt like forever when feeding her baby that night. Monday. Morning came fast, and with it a storm of doubt. She sat at her small kitchen table with her old cell phone in hand, staring at the card again. Her baby cooed from the playpen nearby. Her rent was still unpaid. The job market was still brutal. And yet that card offered something she couldn't name. Finally, with a shaky breath, she dialed the number. Carter Solutions, a woman's voice answered. This is Elise. How can I help you? Hi, Rachel said, her voice catching. I was told to call. Daniel Carter gave me his card. He said I could reach out. There was a pause on the other end, then a warm tone. Ah, yes. He mentioned you might call. Hold on just a moment. Less than 30 seconds later, she heard a familiar voice. Rachel? Daniel said, cheerful and calm. I'm glad you called. I almost didn't, she admitted, smiling nervously. I wasn't sure if you meant it. I always mean it, he said. You free today? She was very free. By noon, she was standing in the lobby of Carter Solutions, a sleek, modern building downtown. Rachel felt completely out of place in her thrifted jeans and secondhand shoes, surrounded by glass walls, polished floors, and people in business casual clothes moving with purpose. But Daniel met her at the front himself. No assistant, no fanfare. He smiled just like he had in the parking lot. Easy. Real. Come on back, he said, holding the door open. They walked into a quiet conference room with a large table and a view of the city. Rachel sat at the edge of a leather chair, trying not to fidget. Daniel poured them both water, then sat across from her. Tell me your story, he said simply. She hesitated, unsure where to start. Then slowly she opened up. She told him about working at the diner for 6 years, about loving the customers, about losing the job when business dropped off. She talked about raising her baby alone after her partner disappeared the moment he found out she was pregnant. She talked about the eviction notice taped to her door, the nights she skipped meals to make sure her baby had formula, the pride that made it hard to ask anyone for help. Daniel didn't interrupt. He just listened. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, You're stronger than you think, he said, and smarter. You've been juggling more in 1 week than most people do in a year. Rachel let out a shaky laugh. I don't feel smart. I feel tired. He nodded. That's why I want to help. We have a program here, a training track for people restarting their careers. We teach admin work, computer basics, even some customer service roles. It's flexible, and there's childcare on site. We don't expect experience. We expect effort. You've already proven you've got that. Her eyes widened. Are you serious? I wouldn't have given you my card if I wasn't, he said with a smile. You don't owe me anything, but I see something in you, and I'd like to help you bring it out. Rachel looked down at her hands. They were rough from work and stress and too many sleepless nights. I don't even know what to say. Say you'll show up tomorrow morning, Daniel said. That's enough. She nodded slowly, a tear slipping down her cheek. I'll be here. As they stood, Daniel reached into his coat pocket once more and handed her a folder. Inside is everything you need, the schedule, contacts, even a grocery voucher for the month. One less thing to worry about. Rachel clutched the folder like it was a treasure chest. She couldn't stop smiling. As she left the building and stepped into the afternoon sun, something had shifted deep inside her. Not just hope, possibility, and this time it didn't feel like a dream. The next morning, Rachel woke up before the sun. For the first time in a long while, it wasn't because of stress or her baby crying. It was excitement. Nervous, shaky excitement, but excitement all the same. She'd set her clothes out the night before, a plain blouse she had kept in the back of her closet, just in case, and a pair of slacks she hadn't worn since her last job interview. Neither were new, but they were clean and neat. She tied her hair back in a bun and tried to cover the dark circles under her eyes with a little makeup she found at the bottom of her bag. Her baby still slept as she gently picked him up and placed him in his car seat. She kissed his forehead and whispered, Mommy's got something important today. He blinked up at her with curious eyes and gave a soft yawn. Somehow, that tiny yawn gave her a burst of courage. By 8:30 a.m., Rachel was walking through the doors of Carter Solutions again, holding the folder Daniel had given her the day before. A woman at the front desk, Elise, the one from the phone, smiled warmly at her. Good morning, Rachel. We're glad you're here. It wasn't said in the flat, professional tone she expected. It sounded genuine, like they meant it. Elise walked her through the office, pointing out where the break room, restrooms, and training classrooms were. Then she showed her something that made Rachel's heart ache with relief. The on-site daycare. It was bright and colorful, full of toys, and little ones just like her baby. The caregivers welcomed her with open arms, gently taking her child and assuring her he'd be well cared for. Rachel lingered for a moment, watching her son settle into the safe, happy space. Then she took a deep breath and turned toward the training room. It was time. The room wasn't intimidating at all. In fact, it felt warm. There were 8 other people seated around the table, men and women of all backgrounds and ages. Some looked just as nervous as she felt. A cheerful instructor named Marcus introduced himself and handed out packets. We're not here to judge anyone, he said, grinning. We're here to give you the tools to get back on your feet. And don't worry, mistakes are part of learning. The morning flew by. Rachel learned the basics of using spreadsheets, creating emails, managing calendars, and writing resumes. Every question she asked was met with patience. Every task she completed, no matter how small, made her feel a little stronger. When the session ended, Daniel stopped by to check in. How was your first day? He asked, leaning in the doorway. Rachel looked up from her notes, a shy smile on her face. Honestly, I was terrified this morning, but now I feel like I can breathe. He chuckled. That's a good start. She hesitated, then asked the question that had been sitting in the back of her mind all day. Why are you doing this? For people like me, I mean. Daniel walked into the room and sat down across from her. His voice was calm, thoughtful. Because someone did it for me, he said. My mom raised me on her own. There were days when she couldn't afford dinner, and worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over our heads. When I was a teenager, a teacher gave me a second chance after I messed up pretty badly. That second chance turned into everything else that followed. I built this company with the goal of giving that same chance to others. Rachel nodded slowly. She understood now. This wasn't charity. It was about dignity. It was about believing in someone when they couldn't believe in themselves. Over the next few weeks, Rachel showed up every day. She learned fast. She asked questions. She helped the others in the room when they got stuck. And every evening she picked up her baby from daycare with a new story to tell him. He'd giggle at the sound of her voice, unaware that their whole world was slowly changing. By the end of the 3rd week, Marcus pulled her aside. "Daniel's been watching your progress," he said. "He wants to bring you in part-time. Admin support, front desk, starter stuff, but it's paid." Rachel's mouth dropped open. "Paid?" He nodded. $18 an hour with room to grow. Her heart felt like it might burst. She had just wanted a chance to prove she wasn't broken. And now here she was being offered a job. She called her landlord the same day and paid a portion of her rent for the first time in 2 months. That night she made real dinner, pasta and sauce with garlic bread, and danced around the kitchen with her baby in her arms. As she tucked him into his crib, she whispered, "We're gonna be okay, little guy. We're really gonna be okay." The unexpected opportunity had turned into a new beginning. And Rachel? She was just getting started.